Welcome back. Today is day 2 of our Solving Equations review unit. In this lesson, we'll be solving one-step equations involving multiplication and division. A handout is provided in the description below if you would like to follow along. Thank you and enjoy. Oh yeah, it's that time again. We have some math problems here and we need you to do them now. Pause the video, complete the problems, and return to the video when you're done. Let's go over this now. Find two numbers that has a given product and sum. All right, so 33. I like to write down all the factors of 33. So I'll go 1 times 33. 2, nope. 3, yes, 3 times 11. 4, 5, 6, 7, 8. I just keep going. I think that's it. But I can already tell that this is going to work right here. So 3 and 11, because if you add those together and they're both negative, that will give me negative 14. And think about it. You should know by now that if the top number, if the product is a negative, that one will be positive, one will be negative. If it's a negative, then one has to be, like for instance, in the last problem, this is a negative 10. So I already know that one of my answers is going to be a plus and one of them is going to be a minus. All right. Now over here, since this is a 72, what do I know about my signs right now? I should know that one's going to be positive and a positive times a positive would work, or it's going to be a negative times a negative. All right. So those are going to be my choices for this one. All right. But because this is a positive 18, then I already know this is a positive and this is a positive. So whatever works, it's going to have to be positive and positive. So let me see. Well, we know 1 times 72 works. 2 times 36. So working on my multiplication today. 3 times 24 maybe. 3 times 20 is 60. Yeah, so 24. And 4 times 3 is 12, so that's 72, yeah. 4. Let me see. Let's divide this in half. If I'm dividing by 4, let's divide this in half twice. So 72 becomes 36, and 36 becomes 18. All right, so this is just good mental math, helping us work on our mental skills. 5, 6, this is just a math fact. 6 times 12 is 72. 8. And 9 times 8. 8 times 9. All right, there's all my math facts. Let me see. Do I have one that makes 18? Yes, I do. 6 and 12. Okay. Nice little challenge problem there. 35. 1 times 35. 2, no. 3, no. 4, 5. 5 times 7, and I can tell that's going to work right there. 5 and 7. And they're both going to be positive. Okay, and this one over here, 10. 1 times 10, 2 times 5. Anything else? No. And, okay, so remember, on this problem, we know one of them's have to be positive, one's have to be negative. Let's see, let me figure that out in a second. If you want to add these up to get a negative 3, then the 5 better be negative. All right, and there's your warm-up. All right, same thing with these problems as we did yesterday. So example 1, 15x equals negative 15. How about we write this in words, because that'll make your life a lot easier to know what the heck's going on here. So we have 15. Now, when they put together a number and a variable just like this, when they put those together, that really means just multiplication. So 15, I'm going to write it out, times a number. So 15 times a number. A lot of students just say 15x, but this really says 15 times a number. So 15 times a number equals negative 15. Okay, so there's some number that if we multiply 15 by, we should get negative 15. All right, now, but again, I like this because we are multiplying by what? We're doing what? We're going to take 15 and we're going to times. We're multiplying by 15. So we're taking that number, we're going to multiply by 15. What's the opposite of multiplying by 15? Or what's the inverse operation? Well, that's just divide. How about we divide by 15? And we'll end up doing that to both sides. So we're going to divide both sides of my equation to keep it balanced by 15. So I'm going to divide this side of my equation by 15 and I'm going to divide this side of my equation by 15. And then we'll see what we get here. 15 divided by 15 is just 1, so this will just be 1x. You don't need to write the 1 if you don't want to. And this will be negative 15 divided by negative 15 is negative 1. And now think about it. In this problem, 15 times negative 1, the number that we were looking for was negative 1, because 15 times negative 1 is negative 15. All right, so that's all we're going to be doing on here. So just like before, we're using inverse operations. So if they tell us to add, we're going to subtract. If they tell us to multiply, we're going to divide. If they tell us to divide, we're going to multiply. All right, so we're just doing the opposite operation. All right, so same thing with this one. And here's what happens. A lot of students just see this as x over 2. That's how they say it. That's how they read it. But if we read it a little bit differently, then it'll probably make your life a lot easier. So what this says to me is a number. So there's some number. And when they, instead of saying over, why don't we just call it its division? So a number divided by 200 equals 3. So if we take a number and we divide it by 200, we should get 3. Some of you probably know what the answer is right now, but instead of just guessing and checking, let's just do the inverse operation. So instead of dividing by 200, what's the inverse operation of that? How about we multiply both sides of my equation by 200. So let's multiply both sides of my equation by 200, and let's see what happens here. So if I take this and I just multiply this side by 200, and multiply this side of my equation by 200, that's a 200, sorry. What do we get? Well, we know that multiplying and dividing by 200 is not going to do anything, it just simplifies out. So this will just be x is equal to 600. And think about it. Does that make sense? A number divided by 200 is 3, or 600 divided by 200 is 3. Yeah, that makes sense. Perfect. And this is a little weird guy. Writing this is kind of weird. So what this says is, let's do the first part. The opposite, when you see that negative there, the opposite of a number divided by 8 equals negative 8. Okay, so the opposite of some number divided by 8 should equal 8. All right, this could be done in one step, but we're going to kind of break it in 2 steps. All right, so let's get rid of this divided by the 8 first. All right, so how do we get rid of that? I'm just going to multiply, and then we'll see what happens. Let's multiply both sides of my equation by 8. So I'm going to multiply by 8 on both sides of the equation. So watch what happens. So multiply by 8 over here, multiply by 8 over here. These we know will simplify out. So that just gives me the opposite of some number is equal to negative 64. Okay. Well, you kind of could tell what the number is right now. So what number does n have to be if you want this to be exactly the same? It has to be 64. So the opposite, what we're trying to, let's try to find out what n is though. What is n in this problem? So now how do you get rid of that negative sign or that opposite sign? Some people could put a 1 in here, but again, if you just take the opposite of both sides, so multiply both sides of my equation by a negative. So let's take the opposite of both sides. All right, a lot of people put a 1 here, so like multiply by a negative 1 to get the opposite. So we're going to get n is equal to 64. So the opposite of a negative n is just going to be n. The opposite of a negative 64 is just going to be 64. All right, and there's my answer. So let's see if this makes sense. The opposite of 64 divided by 8 should be negative 8. So really negative 64 divided by 8 is equal to 8. All right, that's a little challenging problem. That's a little tough one. All right, so again, let's try this one. What I see here is we got negative 44 times, remember when we place those numbers and the variables together, a number. So negative 44 times a number is equal to 0. Probably can figure out what this is already, but let's go through this. What's the opposite of multiplying by negative 44? Well, we can divide. So just do the inverse operation, divide by negative 44. And make sure you do it to both sides so that way it's balanced. Divided by negative 44. So what do I get? Negative 44 and negative 44. My answer for this problem is n is equal to, these will just simplify all out, equals to 0. All right, not too bad. Good luck on your work today. Hope this helps.